first e-bike I bought 7 years ago was the Rad City from Rad Power Bikes, and it was intended for my daily bike and train commute. Since then, I've tested dozens of e-bikes in the form of commuters, foldables, cargo bikes, and fat tire bikes. But for the past month, I've been maximizing my heart rate with an electric mountain bike, and I feel like a kid again. Hello everybody, this is Matthew Miller, otherwise known as Palm Solo on the Mobile with Matt channel. And I have a new bike here that I purchased just over a month ago. And I've tested many Velotric bikes in the past. And as soon as I saw the Velotric Summit 1 go up for sale, I placed my order for the large size bike. Now, I wanted the Sunrise Orange because orange and blue are my two favorite colors, Coast Guard Academy colors and such, but the orange was all sold out. So I said, well, I don't want to wait a month. I'm going to go ahead and make the purchase for the royal blue. And I have to say, I'm very, very happy with this color. It's beautiful in person. You can see a little bit of pearlescent in the sun especially. And it's just a beautiful bike, and it goes well with me out in the mountain trails. And a week after I made that purchase, so I made this purchase and bought this bike at a price of $17.99, and then I found a $60 code from one of the other e-bike reviewers online, so less than $1,750. And a week after I made my purchase, and before it even shipped, the e-bike tariffs kicked in and the price went up $200. So this bike now is $19.99, whereas when I first bought it, it was a $17.99 bike. So the bike arrived in the box, and I'm going to include in the following after this statement is an unboxing video and experience with that. So I've got a new bike here to unbox. It's the Velotric Summit 1. I just bought it. It's the eMTB because we have some new trails in the area. I'm going to go up there and test this bike out and get back to some trail riding. So let's take a look and see what we've got here. Just arrived on a Sunday. Many times these bikes do arrive on Sunday. One thing that you can see with this Velotric bike is it does works with Find My on the iPhone. Another reason to continue to use an iPhone, even though I do use Android and iPhone from time to time. So take out some of the styrofoam inserts. It's very well packed. We have in here a box that says Velotric kickstand. Save that. Some more packing materials. We have another box that says let's build your sweet ride. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. And then it looks like the rest of it is all packed together. So we'll lift it out. So it was raining out, and it took a little bit longer than anticipated to put the whole Velotric Summit 1 together. So I went back inside the garage and put it together, but just walking through some of the steps, and make sure you use the manual that comes with the Summit 1. It's very, very helpful to make sure everything gets connected. It's a little more involved when some of these folding bikes. You have to do first the kickstand, and then you do the front wheel, which is great because that front wheel and tire are a single through bolt that attaches it, which makes it very easy. You put that on there, make sure you remove the one piece from the brake set. Put that on, then you mount the handlebars and everything on the handlebars, including the front light, the display, the reflector, and then the pedals is the last thing you do. And then everything's ready to go. Now you should get the smartphone app connected to your bike, and then you have the Apple Find My feature on there, as well as some other controls on the bike. And that's just a first look at the unboxing. We're going to set this thing up, charge it up, and go out for some trail riding soon. So one thing that I did goof up a little bit was the left pedal install. I didn't quite have it all the way centered properly, and when I went on my first little orientation ride, I noticed the pedal felt a little weird, and it started to angle down, and it turns out I actually stripped that left pedal a little bit, and I was kind of freaking out because I was going to go on some trail riding the next day. And I looked around at bike shops, and then we're open that night. I could have gone the next day, but I found on Amazon a thread tap and die kit and ordered that. It was here the next morning. I fixed the issue and solved that pedal issue, but just be careful. These cranks and the pedals aren't necessarily straight up like a normal standard bike that I've tested before. There is some substantial crank size in there, and they're a little bit angled, so be careful when you're threading those pedals that you do that properly. Now, let's start off typically as we talk about some specifications of the Velotric Summit 1. It's a typical 6000 series aluminum alloy construction. So the Summit 1 weighs in at 62 pounds, and it's really not that heavy. I've had many other bikes that I've tested in the past, even some foldable ones, that have exceeded that weight. So for the size of the bike, 62 pounds isn't bad. That is very heavy for a mountain bike, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. It does have a capacity of 440 pounds, so that's good. I weigh in at 235, so plenty of room there for capacity. Has a big 750 watt rear hub motor with a peak of 1300 watts and 90 Newton meters of torque, which I'll talk about that torque, especially in my hill testing. You can choose usually on bikes between cadence and torque sensors. This has a torque sensor and it's awesome. It really helps you have that smooth transition as you're pedaling, and it gives you that power when you need it, not all the time where it takes off on you. So I love that the torque sensor's on there. In typical e-bike fashion, it has 5 levels of pedal assist with 3 riding modes: Eco, Trail, and Boost. In addition to that pedal assist, there's a left thumb throttle, which is very well laid out because on that right side, you're shifting the gears up and down, and then over here on the left, you have that throttle, which is great. The bike has a 48 volt, 14.7 amp hour, 750 watt hour battery, which is accessed under the frame here. And there's a release where you can release it down, let that battery out, and take it off and charge it if you want. And it does have pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour with a 20 mile per hour throttle, which you can actually push that throttle up to that pedal assist level, 28 miles per hour as well. There's an advertised range on the bike of 60 miles for throttle and 70 miles for pedal assist. I'll talk about my experiences with my weight, but I'm much heavier than the test weight that is usually in there. Has a 120 millimeter hydraulic front suspension with the ability to lock that out. Has Shimano hydraulic disc brakes with 180 millimeter rotors with those Kenda 27.5 by 2.6 inch tires that have a puncture-proof layer in there too, and they do have great knobs for getting up there in the mountains. Has a Novitec 15 by 110 through axle hub up front there, and Shimano 8-speed shifting system. There's a front light with 130 lux and rear lights. The nice thing about this rear light under the seat is that there's different modes on that I'll talk about in the controller, but it's an integrated brake light, and it also can be steady or flashing. There's a large, vibrant 2.8 inch color display with a USB-A port underneath to charge your phone, and the bike has an IPX6 rating for the entire bike and IPX7 rating for the battery, so you can take it out and not have to worry about it. It also meets UL 2849 for electrical systems and UL 2271 for the battery safety, so it's a UL certified safe bike. Use the charger that came with it and you won't have to worry about battery fires. Several of those Velotric bikes also have a smartphone app that it pairs up to, and that one includes that I'll talk about later. And included with this bike is the Apple Find My support, which is great because now you know where your bike is at, and if it does get stolen, you might be able to hunt it down. So now let's talk a little bit about the controller. So looking at the buttons, there's a bottom orange button that serves as the power button. So press and hold it, turn the power on, and then when you're in the menus, it'll serve as the back button. And if you're riding the bike, a single press of that orange button will toggle between the different modes, the Eco, the Trail, and the Boost. Now, there's also a plus and minus button, which is typical for going up and down the different assist levels. It's nice to have both plus and minus to switch quickly between those. There's also a light button in the top right. You press and hold that to toggle the lights on and off if you're not going to use the auto mode. And then there's the walk button. You press and hold that and it will go into walk mode and help walk the bike. There's also the M button. Now, this is the press and hold to launch into the menus, what I'll talk about in a second. And if you just tap that, that will switch the different display modes, odometer, time, trip report, all of that kind of stuff. It also serves as the select button in the menu. Now, looking on the display itself, there's an extensive menu that includes resetting the trip data, riding mode, speed limit, screen brightness, auto power off, auto light off and on, throttle limited, rear light mode. And the rear light mode is very interesting. There's 3 different modes for rear light. You can have it riding steady and then enhanced flashing for braking. You can have it flashing while you're riding and then enhanced for braking, and then you can have it steady for riding with enhanced for braking. So you get to choose between 3 different modes for that rear tail light, which is really nice to see. Now, while that display in the bike itself is pretty extensive, this is one of the Velotric bikes that also has a paired smartphone application. So you can use that application on your phone to manage firmware updates, which include the display, the controller, the battery, some bike settings, such as the name of the bike, the riding mode, the screen brightness, speed limits, auto power on and off, auto light, throttle limit, and units. Now, given all that, there's 15 different modes and level options on this bike. So I couldn't test every single one of these with all of the different ranges. So I'm going to talk about some of my typical scenarios over the past month. Regular viewers know to get to my house, you have to go up a very steep hill with a 13 to 15% incline. And I figured with the Summit 1 being a mountain bike and having 90 Newton meters of torque, that it might do pretty well. But I was pretty surprised. I put it into boost mode, put it up to pedal assist level 5, came around the corner and put on the throttle, and this bike was able to get me all the way up the hill in throttle only mode with the slowest speed of 78 miles per hour, but typically in the 10 to 12 mile per hour range without me having to pedal at all. This is the only bike I've tested to date that has allowed me to throttle up my hill with no assist. Now with assist, I could have flown up, but I tried it just with throttle and it succeeded. The next test after going up a hill was to try out that throttle on a flat surface. Left thumb throttle is very easy to access, and I'm not going to talk about all of the details of the trail riding, but that thumb throttle helped me out of some sticky situations very quickly where I was able to just tap it and get out of that situation. I rode it on a fairly flat paved trail with a slight grade uphill, and battery consumption results show about a 45 to 50 mile per hour range, which is great. I think there's 60 mile per hour range I said earlier for Velotric's stated range, but I'm a heavier guy and I had a bit of a grade, so 45 to 50 miles with just throttle is wonderful. There's different modes for that. There's eco, trail, and boost, so those vary. In boost mode, looking at just the throttle, level 0, no speed, no throttle, no functionality. Level 1 will get you about 15 to 16 miles per hour. Level 2, about 17 to 19 miles per hour. Level 3, about 21 to 23 miles per hour. Level 4, 25 to 26. And level 5 gets you that full 28. Now, those are my experiences and my weight. You may see a little bit faster if you're lighter than I am, so give it a try. The one that I tested for most of my ride is the flat test with pedal assist, because that's the typical way I'm going to ride this as a commuter or when I'm not going to be up on the mountain trails. So I spent most of my 30-mile ride in pedal assist, and usually pedal assist 1 or 2. 3, 4 was too fast and 5 was way too fast. Battery consumption there in the 1-2 range showed about 50 to 55 miles, which I think there's advertised is 75, so that's pretty good for a 235-pound person. Now for some of the riding on that, the trail was closed because there's a bridge down, so I had to ride on the road and it was kind of a highway, so I put it in boost mode with pedal assist 5, and I was able to go more than 31 miles per hour by pedaling in that pedal assist 5 boost mode. Now eco mode will limit the pedal assist to 20 miles per hour, so there's class 1, 2, and 3 configurations you can set up on this bike. The Velotric Summit 1 is designed as an eMTB, electric mountain bike. I took it out and I rarely used any assist downhill, mainly because when you're going downhill, you don't need much assist. I would only use it if I was approaching a jump or wanted a little bit of a boost. Then I would have it on pedal assist 1 or 2 is all. I consumed 12% of my battery in an hour of my trail riding. So that equates to about 5 hours of trail riding with a single battery charge. And I covered about 7 miles in that 1 hour. Now there was a lot of pausing. I was checking out jumps and things like that. So I could easily go over 35, 40 miles on mountain bike range. The very last test that I like to do is just what happens if the battery dies and I have to pedal the bike. It's not that heavy at 62 pounds, and I was able to ride on that flat trail 10 to 13 miles per hour with no pedal assist and no throttle, and it wasn't terrible. So I can get home with no battery. Now I'm not going to ride this 62-pound bike up a hill, but other than that, it's pretty good. Now if you've been paying attention and picked up on my enthusiasm for this bike, I don't even need to talk about the fun factor because it's amazing, right? The fun factor and who this bike is for. If you're never gonna go mountain biking, I don't know if I would spend $2,000 for this bike. It's really designed for mountain biking and then other things. You could use it as a road bike, maybe some gravel trails, things like that, but it's first and foremost designed as a mountain bike. The Summit 1 is my first mountain bike ever, and it's a new experience for me. When I was a kid, I used to do all kinds of stuff, but I am loving the experience with this bike. I am gonna have to get some shin guards because I have knocked my shins a couple times with the pedals, but I grew up in the woods, and getting back to my roots, single track riding through the forest is just so nostalgic and reminiscing and relaxing for me despite my heart rate going up. My Garmin Edge 840 actually shows that I'm making some decent jumps and I'm improving as I make the turns, the jumps, the bumps, and the drops. I think it's thrilling, and I just have to be careful not to hurt myself. There's a lot of power in this bike with modes that are optimized for your riding experience. And the torque sensing really helps that riding experience be smooth without jerking or too much power at times when you don't need it. The torque sensor is awesome. There is a frame guard down here on the bike that's integrated and a chain guard. So there's things that are definitely mountain bike specific that Velotric had thought of, and that's great. There's also very nice wide riser bars here to be for a very comfortable riding experience as you're sitting up forward and riding. The Velotric Summit 1 may be the best bike that I have ever purchased. It's not necessarily the most expensive I've ever purchased, but it's so much fun and it's versatile. It lets me go out on the weekends and explore the mountain trails, and it lets me commute when I want to. There's a new local mountain bike trail, and it's e-bike friendly, and we're seeing more and more e-bike friendly trails. We just saw King County pass a resolution that now in the state of Washington, those county trails can be ridden by eMTBs, and I can't wait to explore more and more of those. I have zero regrets for the $2,000 that I spent on this bike, and I'm having a blast, as I just mentioned. There's a couple things that I'm noticing. Now, this is really a beginner mountain bike. So one thing is it's a hardtail bike. There is no rear suspension at all. And I've seen a lot of people mention that there's no dropper post on this bike. I haven't noticed it. I'm not that heavy of a mountain biker yet at this time, but I did read that it is dropper post upgradable. So I don't know how you'd run the cables for the dropper post and all that. I'll have to explore that a little bit more. And then I have seen some people mention that you might want to get a little bit better front shock. This has proved perfectly fine for me. I'm a 235-pound guy, making a few jumps, haven't had a problem with it at all. And it is a bit heavy for serious mountain bikers, but for beginners like me, it is perfect and wonderful. And part of that beginning is the price, right? Now, when I purchased it, as I mentioned earlier, I happened to buy it before the tariffs kicked in, so I got it for $1,799. It's now available for $1,999. And you can purchase the rear rack, fenders, things like that if you're going to use it for commuting. I actually use it in the configuration it is. I do take off the kickstand sometimes when I'm out there mountain biking, but it is a very solid commuter while it's designed as a mountain bike. The Velotric Summit 1 is advertised as an electric mountain bike, and it's perfect for the new mountain bike rider. And that price is accessible for new mountain bike riders. There are mountain bikes that range up into the multiple thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So getting into the sport with $2,000 is great. It's actually very reasonable, and it's really low for an eMTB. People may battle between eMTBs and MTBs, but I gotta say, an eMTB makes that sport more accessible for people like me that are new to the sport, or for people that just need some help getting up some of those hills. The downhill's easy, right? You're gliding, you're braking, you're doing that kind of thing. But going uphill sometimes can be a real struggle. And the eMTB adds a little bit of assistance to get up those hills, which actually ends up helping you have a longer day of riding. I'm seeing more and more eMTBs out there. And stay tuned, we may have some more to review here on my channel. I considered the Aventon Ramblus that was recently launched. That bike is very comparable to this bike. There are a few higher end components, but maybe not quite the functionality for a commuter. That bike is also $1,000 more. And being somebody like me who's new to the sport, I wanted kind of an introductory bike that wouldn't break the bank, but also would help me have a good time out there on the trails. Velotric is also a brand that I trust. I've reviewed a few of their bikes in the past. I like the Find My functionality, a bunch of this other functionality, and the tech that goes into it. So it provides that eMTB functionality I need while being able to serve as a great commuter, and I have zero regrets for the $2,000 I spent on this awesome bike. I plan to explore many other local mountain bike trails, and as I talked about, some people are starting to allow more eMTBs, and I'm going to explore those as well. So it's going to serve as my base platform to build upon, and I look forward to trying it out more and more. Thanks everybody for watching. Please subscribe and interact on my channel with me. Let me know if you have any questions or areas for improvement, or if you have any tips. I've been watching lots of videos lately on YouTube about how to do basic jumps and how to make those turns and the dipty dips and the whoopsie whoops and the drops off those wooden platforms, which are a little bit scary for me at this time, but I'm going to try it out. Thanks to Velotric for making the Summit 1, and I look forward to more. May the mobile force be with you.